Think back to the days when you were in high school and they had morning announcements. How did they do them? Maybe when you were in school, your homeroom teacher or some teacher just read the morning announcements to you. Maybe there was a loudspeaker in your school and the principal said the morning announcements. Maybe you did the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever, took up 5 minutes during a certain period of the day. Maybe if you were at my high school, we had students read the announcements over the loudspeaker every morning. And it was fun. It's like, oh, that's my friend and they're doing the announcements. I wanted to be one of those kids. I was not selected as one of those kids, which I promise you is not something that bugs me today. But I don't know how many of you know this, but at a lot of high schools today, at some of the bigger high schools where they have TV production studios and things like that, one of the ways they do announcements is that students, whether they're in a class or part of a club that does this, they will make videos, almost like YouTube videos, where they are doing the announcements. And maybe you have students who are like the TV news anchors, and they have a student who's in charge of telling you what clubs are meeting. At a high school I used to teach at, they do it once a week, and the other weeks it's just a loudspeaker announcement. But once a week, they have a student-led production that tells you about what's happening at the school. It's really neat if you haven't seen anything like it. And the reason I bring this up is because at West Orange High School in Florida, in Winter Garden, Florida, kind of near Orlando, that is what they do. They have a daily news program, or nearly daily news program, that is made by students. And so they had it. So a couple of weeks ago, they were airing the daily news program. And I'm going to show you a clip of what played during their morning announcements. Because again, when I talk about these morning announcements, it's not just, hey, kids, here's what's happening after school today. It might be student-led segments because they are taught and trained into producing like little segments of interest that might be of interest to the school community. For example, hey, here's an athlete at our school you should know because they're really good at what they do. Or here's something that a class is doing or a club is doing that's really exciting, and we want to treat them like superstars. Let's do a segment where we interview them. Well, this is the segment that aired during the news show, and it was called Witchy Wednesday. And some of this is blurred out because the student who did this, that is irrelevant. But this is what played for about 80 seconds. I'm going to show you about 30 seconds of it.
Good morning, witches and warriors. Today is Wednesday, September 10th, and this is our first episode of Witchy Wednesday. I am here to guide you through your magical midweek journey every Wednesday. To start, there was a new moon yesterday on September 9th, normally regarded as a blank state and a new start. This phase invites introspection and intention setting. Simple things to honor this phase could be to write your intentions and bury them, or just meditate for an energy reset and healing. That's all for today, warriors. Have a wicked Wednesday.
Okay, so that segment was about 82 seconds long in real time. Here's the thing. Was that a promotion of religion? It wasn't mentioned in the segment at all, but it was very clearly promoting Wiccan beliefs. Okay, if I were her teacher and I was in charge of this daily news program, would I have allowed that segment to go in the show? The answer is no, I would not have. The whole thing feels like that student's personal passion project, but I really can't justify why we need to waste everyone's time at the school in watching it that particular day. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if that segment was okayed by an adult or if students just put together the morning announcements and the school runs it and no one really oversees it. I am not sure. I did ask the school. They did not respond to me, and I haven't gotten an answer to that. But I'll be honest, and I think you will agree with me, if a different student did a similar segment promoting Christian rituals that we can all do, I would find that inappropriate. So my point is that segment should not have been in the episode. I don't think it's controversial to say that. Now, pretend you work at a nonprofit organization that keeps tabs on things like this, and someone informs you, hey, at my kid's school recently, this is a segment that played, and by the way, the video's up on YouTube, you could see it for yourself. What would you do? Well, there's a professional way to handle this issue. Here's what you do. You have one of your staffers, maybe one of your lawyers, write up a letter saying, hey, we heard this is what happened. We investigated it. It looks like this is what happened. But if this is true, this actually violates the Constitution. You can't do this because it could be seen as a promotion of religion. Here's what the law says. Here's why you can't do it. So here's what we're asking you to do. And in a situation like this, you would say, if this was an accident, we just need you to acknowledge that this happened and that you're not going to let it happen again. If a staffer said, this is what's happening, then we need you to make sure you tell that staffer, hey, this is inappropriate, and you need to train your staff to make sure this never happens again. That's the sort of letter that groups like the Freedom from Religion Foundation and Americans United send out when these sorts of things happen. Because let's face it, this is not really a big deal, right? Okay, so the right-wing group Liberty Counsel ended up sending a letter to this school district, but they blew this thing out of proportion so badly. Like, it was the worst possible act of Christian persecution ever. And I want to share this with you because I want you to see how a Christian organization responded to this, okay? On September 18th, they sent a letter to the school district. It is 5 pages long. And look at this. We write to the district to inform you that, let me back up for a second. This is what's interesting. They don't say we want you to shut down this segment and train your staff so this doesn't happen again. Instead, they make 2 different requests. So back to this. They say, number 1, we want to make sure other students who may wish to share their Christian religious beliefs are not denied an opportunity to do so in a similar manner to the Witchy Wednesday video segment detailed below. And then, number 2, we want to make sure all students and staff who wish to opt out of listening to further episodes of Witchy Wednesday must be afforded an opportunity to do so. So let's talk about this for a second. The right thing to do would have been to say, hey, you're not supposed to do this. Please let us know that you're not going to do this again. Liberty Counsel, which, by the way, that's the right-wing group that represents Kim Davis, that Kentucky clerk who said she didn't want to sign marriage certificates for gay couples. Liberty Counsel says, hey, we noticed you allowed a girl to promote her religion on your show. Now that that door has opened a little bit, we want to burst it open and make sure anybody can promote their religion on your daily announcement show. And also, now that the Supreme Court says kids are allowed to opt out of doing anything at school if it violates their religious beliefs, we want to make sure you are allowing students to say no to watching your morning announcements. Like, it is completely taking a small thing that was a mistake and acting like this is a huge religious discrimination problem, and they're going to come after you unless you allow Christians to do a Christian segment on your show. And here's the thing. I think Liberty Counsel is right on the legal matter. If the school's allowing someone to promote their religion, well, guess what? Now we can promote any religion, whether it's Christianity or Satanism, and you can promote atheism too. But if you have any respect for public schools, if you understand how church-state separation works, the solution is not, hey, you got to open the door to everybody so we can ruin the day for all the kids. It's, hey, you wrongly opened this door, close it, because this is not the appropriate role for you. So here's the other thing about this Liberty Counsel letter. They sent it on September 18th. They said, we need a response from you by September 30th, 12 days from now. That should give you enough time to respond to us. And then guess what they did? On September 22nd, like days after they sent out this letter, they issued a press release. Florida high school promotes witchcraft. Like, I promise you that is not what the high school was doing. I mean, the girl did a segment. The school wasn't promoting anything. But they're saying the high school's promoting witchcraft. Here's what that does when you send out a press release like this. You make it sound like the entire administration at this school and all the teachers there are doing something so anti-Christian. And why do you do this? So your Christian zealot base goes after the people at that school. Not violently, but like sends them letters, harasses them, treats them like crap as if they are enemies of your faith. That's why you put out this press release. And again, just because the segment ran on the show, even though it should not have, it does not mean the district was doing any sort of religious promotion. They screwed up and they got to fix it, but there's no evidence this was deliberate in any way. This whole thing could have been resolved with an email. So here's what this was amusing. On September 23rd, the school district's lawyer wrote back to Liberty Counsel, and he also sent a 5-page letter. And this is amusing. Dear Liberty Counsel, I am in receipt of your letter dated September 18th. We have reviewed the segment in question and confirmed that it did take place. We have since instructed the school to cease Witchy Wednesday segments from the morning announcements. No further segments of this nature will take place. So that's great. That's awesome. That is what should have happened. There's nothing wrong with that. Then the letter goes on to explain why the district is taking this step. Right? The lawyer explains, listen, we know what the Supreme Court has said. We know that morning announcements are an example of government speech. And he says somewhere in here, we cannot constitutionally allow such a segment to continue to take place in the future. And that's fine. And this letter goes on to say, I like this. This guy, the lawyer for the district, basically says, now that that segment's not going to be on the show, your two demands are irrelevant. No, we're not going to allow Christians to broadcast their faith on the morning announcements. And no, students do not get to opt out of morning announcements because of their religion. That's ridiculous. But I promise you, Witchy Wednesday is no more, so everything you wanted doesn't matter anymore. And that's also the right thing to say. But the lawyer closed his letter with something that I really appreciated. Check this out. This is on page 5. Finally, I must express my disappointment with how this matter has been handled. Your letter was sent to me on September 18th, and you wanted a response by September 30th. Yet, prior to your requested deadline to respond, your letter was obtained by local media outlets. I also understand that your organization issued a press release regarding this matter. Furthermore, the front page of your website has the following headline: Florida High School promotes witchcraft, along with a link to a copy of your letter. Basically saying, did you actually want a response from us to resolve this? Or are you trying to pull off a publicity stunt? Because everything you're doing says publicity stunt and not, we actually just want to fix this problem. The manner in which this was handled was surprising, given that both our organizations share the same goal to ensure that all students have their First Amendment free exercise rights respected, which is a very polite way of saying what I wish he would have said, which is, you guys need to calm the hell down. Why didn't you just give us a call and we could have worked this out in 2 minutes? Instead, you tried to treat this like a fundraiser for your organization, acting like everyone at this district and at this high school were all evil and trying to promote witchcraft. Look, it was a mistake. We fixed it. It is one thing to pretend the district is promoting non-Christianity when the inconvenient truth was almost certainly that the administrators had no idea that segment was going to air during morning announcements. And Liberty Counsel did not even take that into consideration, that maybe the students just made this and it went up and no one knew what was going on. But guess what Liberty Counsel did after getting that letter? They issued another press release on September 24th saying, Florida High School ceases witchcraft presentations. First of all, there were no presentations. There's one segment on a morning show you never would have noticed. And the school said, yeah, we're not going to run that anymore. That is not a presentation. That is a short 80-second segment. But they're like, they ceased their witchcraft presentations, plural, which is a lie, because of Liberty Counsel. What the hell? These people are insane. And my favorite part of this press release is after they go on about how amazing Liberty Counsel is for shutting this down, they have this weird line at the end. Liberty Counsel provides broadcast quality TV interviews via high-def Skype and LTN at no cost. Why are you doing product placement at the end? I don't even know what that's about. But again, these are not smart people here. There's one other thing I want to show you about this story. Liberty Counsel is not done milking this for all it's worth. They did a short audio interview between a staffer and the president or the director of Liberty Counsel. His name is Matt Staver. And I want to play a segment for you where, again, this is after they got the letter from the lawyer. And they are talking about how they stopped this, oh my God, this massive controversy. They stopped it because they know how these public school districts operate. Look at the hyperbole with which Matt Staver speaks.
It's shocking that this kind of thing would be allowed on the closed circuit TV. Again, just use it for announcements. It's kind of like these companies. Just make your product and stop pushing the radicalized LGBTQ agenda. Just make your product. Cracker Barrel and some of these other companies, they realize when they veer off their product that people don't like it. There's a whole common sense group of people out there that say enough is enough. In Orange County, by the way, and in Seminole County, which is the neighboring county, just as school started this year in August, they were complaining about how many vacant seats they had because a lot of people were using the Florida voucher system to go to private and home schools, and they were leaving the public school. Well, this is exactly why they're leaving the public school.
I mean, who? First of all, what parent would say it's okay for their child to do such thing like this? And then who approved this kind of nonsense to go on the morning announcements?
It had to go all the way up to the principal of this high school in Orange County. The principal had to be aware of this.
Do you understand how my brain was breaking listening to these two idiots talk about this entire thing? Matt Staver said he was comparing, again, a short segment that appeared once on a student-run, as far as I can tell, morning news show. He said, stop pushing the radicalized LGBTQ agenda. And then he invoked the name of the Cracker Barrel and suggested Witchy Wednesday is the reason so many parents are taking advantage of vouchers. He said, quote, this is exactly why the parents are pulling their kids out of public school. No, I promise you, parents are not taking their kids out of public school because one girl had a segment that shouldn't have aired for 80 seconds. These people are insane. He also said at the very end of that clip that this segment had to go all the way up to the principal of this high school in Orange County. The principal had to be aware of this. What are you talking about? Do you think a principal micromanages every single project done in every single class? Of course they don't. They don't have time for that shit. I don't even know if a teacher saw this particular segment, even though I think a teacher should have seen the segment before it aired, but the principal does not have to be aware of this. And the reason that one stood out to me is because Matt Staver has this vendetta against public schools. A lot of conservative Christians hate public education. Linda McMahon, Ryan Walters, they all hate public education, but they very clearly do not know how public schools work. And that's the thing that infuriates me every time they talk about it. They act like all these schools are the same. They act like a principal's watching over every single thing that happens. It's ridiculous. There's no evidence a principal approved any of this, nor is there any reason to believe this series would have continued beyond one episode, even though the girl in that video said, this is the first segment. Whatever. They did not prevent an ongoing crisis. So, they're overblowing everything. And Liberty Counsel is a multi-million-dollar nonprofit organization. And so many of these right-wing Christian groups have so much money, and this is what they waste their time doing. I actually would not have minded if Liberty Counsel just sent a letter saying, hey, we heard this aired. It should not have aired. Can you let us know you're going to stop it? And if the school said, yeah, you're right, we will stop it, then you know what? I understand if Liberty Counsel put out a press release that said, hey, we stopped this school from airing a segment that no one really cared about because it wasn't that big of a deal. It's not at all what they did. They have to justify how they are spending gazillions of dollars every year. And the way they do it is by overblowing small things like this. Because these are not serious people. In any case, the district seems to have handled this perfectly. They acknowledged the mistake. They cited the relevant law. They ended the inappropriate segment. And they reaffirmed their commitment to religious neutrality in public schools. That's how it's supposed to happen. The Liberty Counsel shows you just how unserious and dishonest these groups are. They would rather stoke culture war battles and demonize public education by exaggerating really small incidents. They didn't expose any sinister agenda. They just exposed their own bad faith and desperation every single time. Oh, it was infuriating. All right, what questions we got here? They will take any opportunity they can to force Christianity on school students. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the funny things about groups like Liberty Counsel, because, again, they are most famous for defending Kim Davis and literally right now trying to get her case that has been going on for like a decade in front of the Supreme Court in order to overturn Obergefell and make marriage equality no longer a national thing. So what is that other than to force Christian views, their Christian beliefs on everybody? But they got mad because, oh no, some kids had to listen to this segment for 82 seconds. Yeah, the hypocrisy is unbelievable. Can I opt out of math? I view math as a moral evil. Yeah, I mean, they do talk about imaginary numbers and irrational numbers. And really, if they say pi is a certain thing and the Bible says otherwise, who knows? So, no, you can't opt out of math. Math is the best thing about school. I mean, if you said history, if you said like gym, I get it. But you can't leave math. School handled it perfectly, in my opinion. Yep, I agree. They did the right thing. Christianity gets called out for promoting itself in schools, claims persecution. Also Christianity calls out other religions for promoting in public schools, cries persecution. Yep, damned if you do, damned if you don't. They're always going to complain about everything. So hopefully these districts have lawyers who actually understand how the game is played. Such drama junkies, just trying to add their narrative and agenda. Liberty Counsel is also the group that every Christmas they put out a list of which stores are saying Merry Christmas and which ones are saying Happy Holidays. And they're basically urging their members to boycott the ones that say Happy Holidays because that is their example of Christian persecution. Not joking. They've been doing this for years. That's how dumb these people are and why they should not be taken seriously. Multi-million-dollar organization.